This is weird.
From the land of conjurers flying through the internet to your device like a UAP, hauntingly unexplained and downright weird, this is the Witching Hours, and we are ready to take off in the flash of an eye. Good evening to one and all, wherever and whenever you are listening to this program. I am Frosty, and joining me as always is Medium Jenny Lee. How are you doing, Medium Jenny Lee?
I'm doing okay.
You're doing okay. I would ask you.
It's my crazy week, and I'm just hanging in there, trying to do one day at a time.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you want to get weird, but I guess we're already there.
I mean, we're always weird, but it particularly would be nice to get weird today after a long, long day.
Yeah. The start of a week, since we've moved to Mondays, it's, like the Thursday show was great because it's like we're almost there. Now on Mondays, it's like, we're just getting started. So,
well, when I used to stream on Mondays, we would call it Monday, which sounds kind of gross. But it makes it a little bit more exciting, I think.
A little more exciting. Well, it's a way to get your week started off right? I mean, I wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who came by and hung out with us last night on the New Era Paranormal Podcast. We were joined JD and Irene, and we had a great time over there. And we got to talk about Team Weird and how Team Weird being the backbone for everything we do.
Irene was talking up Team Weird. If you guys missed it, you should go back and watch because she said how awesome you guys were at Team Weird Takeover at least twice.
Yeah. She's ready to hang out with Team Weird more. So I would imagine that's going to be around the corner. We were talking about some interesting things last night, things we could do, time permitting. So we'll see what comes out of it. But thank you guys for coming and joining us over there last night. We had fun over there. So shout out to New Era Paranormal again. It was a fun time. So Jenny, well, let me say, real quick before we get started, thank you everyone for joining us tonight on the Witching Hours. It's always great to hang out with you, whether you're here live with us right now or whether you're joining us at another time in another place. The Witching Hours is your home for the paranormal, supernatural, and unexplained. And if you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe on whatever your favorite podcast platform is, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us pretty much wherever. And if you listen to podcasts somewhere we're not there, I don't know if that's possible, but let me know and I'll get us there. And if you're tuning in on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like and all that stuff. You know what to do, because reviews and ratings really do help more people find the show and allow us to bring more wonderful guests to you. So help us out in that way, and we'd be very, very appreciative. You ready to get into some weird news, Jenny?
Of course.
All right. Okay, this is interesting. We've talked about this before. Crews left stranded as orcas attack more boats off the coast of Spain.
Again?
Yeah,
the orcas are feisty.
Yeah, they were first observed deliberately ramming boats back in 2020, and since then it seems to have spread far and wide, with prominent incidents being reported last year in the waters off Spain and Portugal. Experts believe that this behavior may have started with an adult female named White Gladys who survived some sort of traumatic event, such as being injured by a collision with the boat.
Yeah, there you go.
Younger orcas then started to copy her, and the trend spread among the population. At least that's the theory right now. While it had seemed as though some of the phenomenon had died down recently, reports from Spain indicate that the killer whales are at it again, this time tearing the rudder off a German sailboat.
Wow.
And then repeatedly ramming it while it was being towed back to safety by authorities.
Goodness.
There are also several other reports of similar recent attacks in the region. So
we need an animal communicator to see what's going on with them.
Send Nicole Elizabeth out there on a boat so she can talk to orcas.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I just hope that humans don't do anything bad to the orcas because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know. Probably not the I would just. I could be completely wrong about this. I would think probably not the orcas. I would think maybe if they were sharks, maybe people would be. But orcas are pretty beloved. I mean, Free Willy and all that.
They're even more dangerous, though. Really?
Oh well, yeah, they are. Yeah, and actually, off topic, I kind of found out recently that they eat dolphins also. So
yeah,
they're pretty brutal too.
They are. I mean, they're called killer whales for a reason.
Yeah. So anyway, well, evidently humans might be on the list here soon because they're sinking boats.
Need the list.
They've been sinking boats.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of good reasons.
Story number 2, scientists warn one of the world's super volcanoes is waking up.
Oh, no.
They reveals 4 times as many earthquakes as Italy's Campi Flegrei. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, there we go. Right.
Luna, how do you pronounce it?
Hundreds of thousands of people could be at risk from a super volcano that's waking up. Experts have warned in the last few months, a series of powerful earthquakes have shaken Italy's Campi Flegrei, a volcanic field near Naples. In May, the region
so much earthquake activity.
Well, that's why I put this in the news because it's just been insane. In May, the region experienced a magnitude 4.4 tremor, the strongest in 40 years. Now, experts have warned the number of earthquakes in the area is actually 4 times higher than previously thought, and it could mean more powerful, potentially devastating quakes could be imminent.
Wow.
Yeah, in the past 400,000 years, it has produced 2 of the largest eruptions ever known in Europe. Mm. And researchers are saying that they have not seen any evidence for upward movement of magma with the volcano, which reduces short-term concerns. However, earthquakes still have the potential to endanger lives and damage buildings and infrastructure.
Yeah, like that one in Pakistan. Was it Pakistan or Afghanistan? Afghanistan, right? That was last week.
And there's been so much, and something I would like to talk about, to have someone on this show, because at this point I think there's definitely a trend for more seismic activity, and volcanic activity seems to be ramping up. And we talk about climate stuff. We want to have Rob Guttrow on to talk specifically about climate. He's a retired meteorologist
who worked for NASA.
Yeah. But I'd be curious to see if there's some trend along, with those two things with each other. I don't know, but something I think that is catching a lot of people's attention. I know it caught mine and yours kind of without us even talking about it at first. And it seems to be more and more of a trend. So we'll see.
He's also an animal. He's not an animal communicator, though. He's an animal medium, but
he's an animal medium. Yeah.
I think we can test his skills.
All of our animal friends. Yeah.
Talk to the orcas.
There we go. We can send him out on 2 boats. That way, if one of them,
we're putting him in danger here.
And the final story for tonight, story number 3, woman breaks record for sprinting across a track of Legos. A woman in New Zealand broke a record by doing something most moms have done themselves, walking on Legos. Gabrielle Wall.
Is this the new upgraded version of walking across coals?
Yeah, essentially. There's like a competition in New Zealand that they have every year. Gabrielle Wall broke the Guinness World Record for the fastest 100 meters barefoot on Lego bricks while attempting a 328-foot sprint in Christchurch. 661 pounds of Lego bricks were laid out.
Wow.
By the nonprofit Imagination Station. Wall's trick for being successful was building up calluses on her feet for 2 months before the attempt. Who gets the feet Legos when they're done? They'd get donated to some kids' charity. Yeah, here, have these feet Legos, kids. Yeah, everybody run across the Legos. Well, I will say, I don't know if running over a whole bunch of Legos is the problem, because it seems to me like it's worse when there's only one.
Yeah, or like a few. What's worse is if you step on one and you're like, oh my God. And then like you try to step and then there's another one.
Or it's stuck. So then you step right on the same spot again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the horror.
Mm-hmm.
The horror. So anyways, no microplastics tonight. No,
Yeah,
we're doing
that's
okay.
good. Just, or, feisty orcas and giant volcanoes.
I had the Legos to keep it
Lego feet.
To keep a little levity, we're good. And that was the weird news. All right. We're excited, everybody. Here we go. Michael Schratt, a private pilot and military aerospace historian, has lectured across the country on the unique subject of mystery aircraft and classified propulsion systems buried deep within the military-industrial complex. Michael has developed a number of contacts which have had first-hand experience dealing with classified black programs, including former U.S. Air Force pilots, retired naval personnel, and aerospace engineers that have maintained a top-secret clearance. He has appeared on multiple media platforms, including Coast to Coast AM, the History Channel, Paranormal Matrix, UFO Hunters, and Fade to Black. Please welcome to the show for the second time, Michael Schratt. How are you doing, Michael?
Good to be with you.
Yes, welcome back.
All right. So we've had a couple times this year where we're like, okay, next time we have one, Michael, we got some questions to ask because
okay.
So, some of this has kind of come and gone in the mainstream news, but I don't know if questions were answered. And I guess the first thing I would bring up is early in the year, we kind of had a rash of all these drone sightings around the East Coast that were kind of getting mixed into UFO reports. Were you able to glean any information out of the reports that were there in terms of like connections with what was going on with military? Did this seem to be more civilian or did this seem to be government? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly don't have an inside track on what the New Jersey drones were. However, I do not think that they were extraterrestrial in any sense. I think they're completely man-made, and they can be used as a psychological warfare operation, disinformation campaign, but certainly nothing ET that I could see.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I saw them, I think anyone who's done some amount of investigation into UFOs or even is just passingly kind of interested in the topic, it was kind of like, well, we know this isn't UFOs, but like, what is it? And then it was interesting because, and this is something you might have information on that I don't know, because I'm not a pilot. I don't know like a whole lot of air laws. We do have CMC Air Boss who keeps us up to date a little bit on the pilot stuff, but they said there were things that they were flying, drones that were being flown in the sky that were as big as like cars and stuff like that. Is that possible for civilians to be able to fly drones that big, or does that typically have to be a government thing?
According to the FAA regarding aircraft, you're not allowed to fly 1,000 feet or below in a residential area. In a remote area, you can drop it down to 500 feet. These things were lower than 500 feet. So if that's true, then they were breaking FAA regulations. Now, what the drone specs are, I'm not familiar with that. I can only go by what the FAA talks about for aircraft. Yeah. When you talk about ultralights, you're not allowed to fly 30 minutes after sunset. And these were clearly at night on the East Coast. Yeah. So I think we can rule out ultralights. That's for sure.
Yeah, so we can rule that out. And then on top of that, I guess we did have some kind of confirmations that these are being flown over government installations as well, right?
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that UFOs, they have a certain interest in nuclear capabilities like nuclear power plants. They're interested in military installations. They're interested in reservoirs and large bodies of water. They're interested in research centers like Los Alamos, Lawrence Livermore Laboratories. Those are the four primary areas that seem to be very interesting to UFOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the water's a big one too.
The waters are
a connection.
Yep. Hudson Valley Boomerang Wave, 1982 to 1989. A lot of craft were seen over bodies of water in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
Multiple reports.
Yeah.
So then these drone things, it's like, I don't know. It almost makes me feel like it could be some kind of misinformation because it was doing those things.
Yeah.
Like people know that they do those things,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't ET. So then I don't know.
Look at you, silly.
Suspicious.
Look at you, silly UFO people who, they're obviously drones, right? I mean, what are you making a big fuss about?
Right.
That's kind of I don't know. I could be off base about that, but that's kind of what I took it for.
It could be a diversionary tactic. Maybe there was something going on there, and then they sent up our drones as a cover to hide their own program or something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of look over here while there's something going on over here.
That's right.
The magician's sleight of hand trick.
Always, I think, especially when it comes to UFO, and whenever they can get the opportunity to try to trivialize and kind of poke fun at the UFO community, they definitely take that. They take their shot.
Yes. So sad.
All right. So another thing I wanted to kind of discuss with you a little bit is kind of talking about capabilities, because that's been something that's been coming up, not with just the drones, but even kind of going into some of the modern UFO and UAP sightings, go fast, and all of those videos that have come out. I was kind of curious, especially because, when I was in the Army, I was in a unit that did drones. I was in a drone unit. And so I was kind of curious. I know what the drones were capable of when I was in, which I got out about 2013. So I'm kind of curious, what do we think right now the capabilities are when it comes to unreleased drone technology? What kind of do we have the capability for these to be kind of mistaken with UFOs when it comes to speed and things like that? Or
if you go back to the newspaper clippings, which clearly indicate that a breakthrough was made at the latest October 1954. Personally, I believe the breakthrough was made prior to, because we've got multiple cases of things that are screaming a man-made technology in 1947 and 1950. We've got the Snake River Canyon case where something that looked like all the world, like Abraham Lincoln's top hat, screaming through the Snake River Canyon, janking and banking and going through, and it had a pod on either side. There was an atomic discharge coming out of both of these tubes. This is something that Los Alamos, one of our labs, could have been involved in. The Atomic Energy Commission, they could have been involved in that. 1950, we've got Stuttgart, Arkansas, where two pilot and co-pilot of a DC-3, they swear that what they saw was man-made. So this is all prior to 1957. I definitely believe we've made the breakthrough. Getting back to your question about capabilities, I will just quote Ben Rich. You might know who Ben Rich was. Well, he was the former head of Lockheed Skunk Works between 1975 to 1991 timeframe, right in there. And he told my very good friend Jim Goodall, just before he passed away in 95, he said, "Jim, we have things in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort." So if you think about what this means, 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. Anything you've seen on Star Trek, we've been there, we've done that. So that's kind of like the capabilities of where we're looking at something that could be 100 years beyond what we have out here. Everything you see at your local air show, this is all obsolete technology. It's decades obsolete. They are at least 100 years advance in technology. Could be even further than that.
Wow. Wow. 50 to 100 years past. I mean, and it's, to a certain degree, I don't even really know what that would mean. What that capability actually even would be.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not the one saying this, because David Grosh in the UAP hearings said, basically, quote, "I was aware of a ongoing UAP crash retrieval program." He knew about it, and he's the one that's telling us. He's government intel official. Now we've got the UAP hearings going on tomorrow in Washington, D.C. We'll see what comes of that. But again, I think they're going to keep on kicking the can down the road. We won't get any bodies. We won't get any debris. And so that's what we need to move this field forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think there has, well, it's one of those things where I think there has to be some kind of hard evidence at some point to be able to move this thing along.
Where is the physical evidence? Where is it? Now, he said there's a crash retrieval program. Let's get the evidence. Let's get the hardcore physical evidence put into the hands of the scientific community. Then we can get somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I've been keeping up with lately. I'm drawing was it Representative Luna, who's part of these, and I was watching some, videos recently where she was discussing, evidently just kind of like some of these military intelligence, whistleblowers or whatever, that she's seen things that supposedly that that citizens would be able to have some kind of answers, but once again, she's saying this is all classified and that it's not being able to be shared. Is there anything that you expect to come out of this at any point in time for us to actually ever see anything?
That's the problem we're running into here. That's the brick wall we're running into. We've got all these witnesses telling us things, and then when we go to congressional hearings in Washington, D.C., the senators and congressmen, they don't have a need to know, and they don't have a high enough security clearance to access this information. So how are they going to declassify something that they don't have access to? That's the problem we're running into. So I don't foresee any breakthroughs tomorrow. And it's going to be starting early tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something to keep up with tomorrow. I'll keep an eye out for that as we go along. I've been following it, pretty closely. It becomes frustrating. On one hand, it's been really great as someone who's interested in paranormal topics and following along with with UFO sightings. For me, it was since probably like the mid '90s when I was in high school and stuff like that, when I really started trying to follow it and listen to Art Bell and all those kinds of things. It's like one of those things where it's like it's going to happen at some point, and now all of a sudden it's 20 or 20 or 30 years later, and it seems like we're kind of going in the same circles. But they're definitely giving us some bait. The UFO hearings, when they first came out, I was like, okay, we're going to get somewhere now. Like something is happening. It can't be on the mainstream news networks and not have any kind of results. But yet that seems to be where we found ourselves for the time being.
Just a couple of quick examples before we dive into some of this. We know for a fact, because Gordon Cooper told us point blank, in 1957, he was at Edwards Air Force Base. There was a flying saucer that hovered over the dry lake bed because they were filming the installation of precision landing equipment. It retracted the landing gear legs. It landed on the dry lake bed for 60 seconds, sat there, hovered back up, legs retracted back into the craft, and then it departed. It was about a 25-foot diameter dish-shaped craft. Now, the good thing is all of this was recorded on motion picture film reel. They recorded it because they were already filming the precision landing gear installation. So they got this on film. That film was brought back to Edwards Air Force Base. It was developed. Gordon Cooper saw it with his own eyes. He unreeled the film. It was of good quality that showed the disc-shaped craft there. He did not repeat. He did not run it through a projector. There was a courier, Air Force courier, that came from what we believe to be Andrews Air Force Base, flew all the way to Edwards Air Force Base. He had a briefcase. He had handcuffs on his wrist connected to the briefcase. That film was put into the briefcase, shipped back to Andrews Air Force Base, and then disappeared into a warehouse at the bottom basement of the Pentagon somewhere. We don't know. So why can't we get that film declassified? It's from 1957. Yeah. They don't have the film reel number. How are we going to get to this? I mean, does anyone at the Pentagon know where that film is? Not only that, what about the gun camera footage from P-51s during World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm? We've got multiple reports of B-17s after World War, B-29s going over the Arctic region, completely loaded with still cameras, motion picture film reel cameras, where these dish-shaped craft park themselves off the right wing of the B-29, right in back of the trailing edge of the main wing and in front of the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer while all the cameras were running. Where is that footage? It's been confirmed. We have that too. Any one of these get released and we will have disclosure by lunchtime tomorrow. That's where we're at.
Well, it's interesting you brought up, the Foo Fighter, footage and stuff like that. Sure. I saw an article the other day where evidently Ukrainian fighter pilots are seeing UFOs.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yeah, there was some video released the other day of a Ukrainian pilot footage of something going too fast, something coming through there.
That was recently?
Yeah, that was just recently. I saw that article.
Every major conflict on this planet, there's been UFO sightings associated with them. There were the mystery helicopters, they called them, in Vietnam. They were called mystery helicopters. That was confirmed by multiple pilots. So, they have this footage. There's no doubt that there's got to be multiple locations around the country, massive warehouses full of this. In the early 1950s, there was a call that went out to our Air Force pilots to shoot these UFOs down. And after a while, we started losing aircraft and pilots, and they rescinded that order. They completely rescinded that order. Where is that gun camera footage?
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've got it.
Yeah, that probably wasn't a good call.
That wasn't a good call.
No. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm one of those people, that takes us back to a topic, that always comes to my mind is the Brookings report.
Sure. Yeah.
And the first thing I think is if I see a UFO, the last thing I think I'm going to do is try to take a shot at it, considering if they can traverse space and time, if that's what they are, maybe interdimensional, whatever. But whatever it is, obviously their technology is vastly superior. I don't know if my, sidearm is going to do any kind of damage to some craft that, is going at, an incredible rate of speed and seems to blip out of time and space. However, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do both of you personally believe that the slow drip acclimation process has done its job? Do you feel that we're ready at this point? Has the acclimation process done its job?
So I'll answer first, Jenny, and then I'll let you go, because we might have different answers. So, talking about the Brookings report, and when I started thinking about that, I still think that we are at a place today, and I hate to say this because I really want disclosure. It's right. probably the one great question I've wanted to know more than anything else, because I think it would change our civilization in a way that hasn't been touched before. But I don't think that our societies around the world are capable of that information yet. I really don't. I think there's a large group of people who wouldn't be able to handle that information. It would cause a lot of trauma around the world, I think, if that was released tomorrow. What do you think, Jenny?
You're right. I have a different opinion. I think that for the most part, I think we are ready. And as someone who, I'm not an art historian, but I am an artist, and I have an art degree, and I work at an art museum. Cultures all over the world that aren't in the West have these type of beings in their mythos, in their culture, and their art, dating back all the way to the beginning of their time. So I think it's just us. It's just the West being like we always are when we don't, because we don't want to think outside of the box. But I think the slow drip process, I think it's been long enough, in my opinion. And I think a lot more people, I think the percentage of people in the West that are accepting it or could accept it or are starting to think that it's possible is way more than it was in 1950.
That sounds right. Yep.
What about the people who control oil supplies and things that might become obsolete.
You don't want to get me going down that rabbit hole.
I'm just saying. I mean, I think that's the resistance to it.
Because I think all of those things need to change.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I would agree.
And if the people that have all that power would realize that they don't have to lose all their money and power if they switch over to the new thing, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Michael? Do you think we're ready for disclosure? Do you think the Earth is ready for disclosure?
I kind of think that we are ready. However, I also think that a lot of this is no longer classified as proprietary because it's put into the hands of the defense contractors. And that's going to be the gatekeepers of releasing this. Because it looks like what they did is they cut a dirty deal with the government. The government said, well, we've got these crash retrievals. The only thing we want to know are two things. Number one, what is the free energy system, the propulsion system that is operating these craft, and how can we exploit the technology for weapons advancement? That's the only thing they were interested in. And so through that process, the defense contractors have trickled this technology down, in many cases, to the privatized sector. They've made billions off of this, and that's the deal that they made. But that's the problem. And I don't see people in congressional hearings having access to the bowels of the defense contractors. They just don't have those clearances. No. And that's the problem we're running into here.
Yeah.
And I love that they keep asking, even though they're like, no, that would have to be in a closed session or, whatever excuse they have.
The private skiff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of another, that brings up another interesting question, what you're talking about, the slow drip. And one of the things we talked about on this show and with our people here in Team Weird is, I don't know if what we're getting now is a slow drip or if we're just getting disinformation.
That's true too.
Or is the disinformation part of the drip?
That could be too.
I mean, it could be.
We've got so many bloggers now, podcasts, we've got YouTube, we've got so many avenues for this to come out. If an announcement was made or physical evidence was actually brought out, it would be real time all around the world. Everyone would know instantaneously. So we're certainly at that point. We are primed. We've set the groundwork. We've already laid the tracks for this. We're ready. Anytime. But see, I don't think we should have to wait on the government and rely on the government to tell us. We already know it's our job to track down some of these legacy witnesses, get them into congressional hearings. Maybe we can get to their bosses that can bring us to these crash retrievals and the bodies. I think that's our only hope at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that always has been. I mean, it's always been the people who are out there doing the investigation, the people like you who are out there doing the research that really is out there bringing, trying to shine a light on this stuff. And, I mean, that's what got me interested, so many years ago, is by people who are, going after this stuff because it's not going to be released by the government. No. And until they're forced, until they don't have any other option, I guess. So we'll see.
Now we're hearing about a 7-panel committee that's going to review information, and then over a 7-year period, they're going to bring it. And then there's going to be another 7-year period. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
By the time we go through all that, all the people who are waiting for this information will have passed on. We'll be going to a new generation.
I mean, let's just get on with it already, And whatever the truth is, whatever it is.
And that's really interesting too, because we have so much is focused on recent events. We have so much about the declassified stuff. I feel like in some ways, the mainstream media that's really kind of caught on to talking about the UFO phenomena has kind of disregarded some of the earlier sightings. Like, that's not something that's talked about anymore. Have you felt that way as well?
I will not let them get away with that. Oh, no. I'm not letting them get away with that. You talked about the Foo Fighters, okay? So you've got that. I still believe that there is something to the 1897 mystery airship wave, and I don't think it was ET. If you go back to 100 BC, The Romans talked about flying shields, so we can keep on pushing the timeline all the way back. So if they think they're going to get away with talking about something that happened with the Nimitz and anything prior to that doesn't exist, not a chance, not a chance.
All right. Well, I guess since we're talking about some of these older encounters, let's go ahead and pick up where we left off.
Okay.
All right. Let me bring it up here.
Just real quick for listeners who have not heard you speak before or didn't hear you the last time, will you just give a brief little overview of where this information has come from?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. On our first get together here, we were talking about the UFO crash retrieval cases from Leonard Stringfield. Leonard Stringfield is the gentleman who coined the term UFO crash retrievals. In 1978, in July, he gave a lecture about crash retrievals at the MUFON Symposium right next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I just thought that was such a coincidence because everything he was talking about was actually going on a couple miles down the road. So over this time period, I would say a 30-year time period, he collected dozens and dozens of firsthand military witnesses. I'm talking about people who loaded the craft onto 18-wheeler tractor-trailer lowboy trucks, people who were involved in the autopsies, medical personnel, x-ray technicians, people who were boots on the ground and retrieved the debris and brought them into laboratory. These are the caliber of witnesses that Leonard had identified. Now, he put that all into a 7-volume status reports that were published over the years. Those were put into a 1-volume, I'd say about 2-inch thick book, which is highly recommended. And everything what we be talking about tonight comes from that publication.
Awesome. Thank you for the reminder or the new information for those who didn't know.
Excellent. All right.
Good. So we will pick up here. And I've put this slide in here. Special note, something very serious appears to have been going on regarding UFO crash retrieval cases for the year 1953. So kind of as we go through these, I just came up with this because it just kept coming up. 1953, 1953, 1953. Something was going on. Maybe there was an uptick in crash retrievals. That appears to be the case. So I had to put this in here. I'm going to move forward here and let's see if we can go on to the next slide here. So Fort Polk, Louisiana, summer 1953. Our source that Leonard identified was a private in the Army. We have his name. HJ is the initials. This is case A1, page 80. And I will move on here really quickly. Now, what was retrieved was this egg-shaped craft about 30 feet across. The ground was still warm to the touch when the gentleman who is HJ got to the operation. And he said that there was a flange wrapped around the outer portion of the craft itself that was still rotating. And then he said that, and you can see Rudy's drawing here. I want to give credit to my good friend Rudy Gardea. There were medical personnel assisting these ETs walking out of the entryway hatch that you see here. Now, they were about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. They had oversized head, oversized eyes, slit for a mouth, minute nose. They were all wearing a one-piece tight-fitting green flight suit. They had helmets on. They were wearing mittens, believe it or not. And then he said that these medical personnel that were assisting these ETs, they did not have a knee joint like we have. They only had a hip joint. So they had this staggered stepping across the ground, very unusual. Now, if you look in Rudy's drawing here, one of their comrades was being carried away in a stretcher, and there was some type of communication going on between the people walking out of the hatch and their fallen comrades. So there was an attempt of some type of communication. Let me go on here a little bit. This is Joseph Ray's full color rendering just to preserve an important part of our national history here. So he's got the 30-foot long egg-shaped craft. He's got the flange. Now let's zoom in here a little bit so that we can get a better view of what was actually going on. So you can see the medical personnel are assisting these ETs. They had helmets on, one-piece tight-fitting green flight suits. Here is their comrade being carried off into the back of the ambulance truck. And this is all from Leonard Stringfield, firsthand military witness. Okay.
The illustrations are beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I can't take credit for it.
Yeah.
But, yep.
That metal of the UFO is just like,
Yeah.
Yep, this is what was described. You know, we need to get these people in congressional hearings. Mm-hmm. This is a firsthand military witness who watched all this go down. I mean, he was he was probably within 20 feet of this thing. So he was very close up to it. Now, here's the question we want to ask. What happened to the survivors? According to the source, the survivors had been sent to a hospital and put into isolation, but all soon died. Mm-hmm. He also learned that the cadavers were sent to a medical center near Washington, D.C. And we want to think, where is this medical center? Mm-hmm. Okay. It is Walter Reed Army Medical Center that we've heard about so many times before. Mm-hmm. We have all these body reports being sent to this centralized location that closed in 2011. However, there is more than just this facility. Reports of ET autopsies also going on at Johns Hopkins Hospital. So we've got two locations where this apparently was going on here. Now, another case from Stringfield. This is a witness who was flown to an undisclosed location. This is April 1953. So this is another 53 case. He was blindfolded, driven 30 minutes from the base of operations. And when they got there, they finally removed the blindfold, and he said that he saw a 30-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that was in a tent. He was there for 2 days, and he said that this is page 13, abstract 7 in the book. So if anyone wants to follow along, that's where the book is. He said that there was people with metallurgical testing equipment testing the tensile strength of the dish-shaped craft. So now we're talking about bodies, we've got debris, we've got craft, and where is this information? Where are these bodies? That's what we want to look at too here. Critical note, previously uncleared scientists, engineers, or specialists working on UFO crash retrieval operations are always blindfolded before they are transported to a site where top secret UFO research is being conducted. This is exactly what this gentleman had just talked to us, where he was a part of this team. He was flown to the location. They blindfolded him. It was only until they got to the location it was removed. So what they're doing is they're covering their tracks. They're not leaving any breadcrumbs for people to follow here. Mm-hmm. Another report, this is page 16, abstract 10. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 1953. Witness saw 2 craft and 4 ET bodies that were packed in dry ice. Source, head of military security via Charles Wilhelm. So this is another case of things being sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And the reason why, where all roads lead to Rome, but in our discussion, all roads lead to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, is because Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, number one, has the Foreign Technology Division, where they can test the tensile strength of these vehicles. And number two, it has the Aeromedical Lab there, so they can examine tissue samples. So it just makes sense that things were sent in the late 1940s, early 1950s, going back to the 1960s, sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. All right, next one, which is one of my favorite within the Stringfield cases. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, 1953. Our source, who we've got here, he was a warrant officer, page 15, abstract number 8. Okay, so what we've got here is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And this is hangar complex number 4. Off to the right is Bay E, because it has Bay A, B, C, D, and E. I've got the arrow there indicating where I think this actually went down. Now, this is a photograph I took when I was given access to the base. I've actually been inside this hangar. So it's late at night. Mm-hmm. A 4-engine DC-3 prop plane pulls up to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, taxis onto the tarmac, hangar doors open up, this DC-7 taxis into the hangar. I'm going to go to the next slide here, and this gives you an idea of what this looks like. Now, just picture this going on inside the hangar. there was an aft cargo bay door on the port side of the aircraft, which is this side right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a forklift that kind of went over, and this warrant officer witnessed something amazing. He saw these pallets being offloaded from this DC-7, and he said on one of the pallets, there were 3 wooden crates with their lids pulled off. And he was close enough to kind of look into these crates. So he's now peering into and looking inside these crates. And what did he see? He saw 3 deceased ET corpses within these crates. They were 3.5 to 4 feet tall. They had oversized heads, oversized eyes, slit for a mouth, minute nose. They were wearing a one-piece tight-fitting flight suit. He said that one of them had breasts, so he believes that at least one of them was female. Now, they were all being suspended off the bottom of the wooden crates by a white-colored netting to protect the bodies from the dry ice freezer burn below. And he's looking at all this. He couldn't believe it. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and this will give us a full-color rendering of what this may have looked like back in 1953 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So when we hear senators and congressmen in Washington, D.C., and they say, well, we don't have any evidence. We don't have any physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
We've got bodies right here. We've got debris, because the DC-7 was not only full of just bodies, but there was debris from the crash retrieval operation. Now, I'm going to reverse the viewing angle perspective, 90 degrees look down, and I want to give us a little bit of a look down perspective here. And this is what may have been recovered in 1953 from a UFO crash retrieval. Let's continue on here. We'll go on to the next one. So what do they look like? If you take all the information from Leonard Stringfield's firsthand military witnesses, medical doctors, pathologists, people who are x-ray technicians, if you put all that together, this is what they're telling us. And we'll go through the bullet items quickly here. So 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, 2 round / almond eyes sunken in, heavy brow ridge, large hairless head by human standards, no earlobes, no definitive nose, slit for a mouth. We keep on hearing that multiple times. Very thin neck, small torso, wearing a metallic flexible garment. How many times have we heard about this? Tight-fitting flight suit that is so fully integrated into the skin of these ET corpses as to be one unit. I mean, it's not even like they're wearing anything. It's part of their body.
Yeah, a lot of cases that I've heard where, for people who are experiencers say that at first they think they're not wearing any clothes and they realize they're so tight that they are wearing something. Yeah.
That's exactly correct. Arms described as long and thin, reaching down to the knees. Hands having 4 fingers without the thumb. Slight webbing. Short and thin legs, no toes. Skin color beige, tan, brown, tan, pinkish gray. So if you take all these parameters, you plug those into a drawing, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. This is according to the medical doctors and pathologists who are on the autopsy teams who actually autopsied these bodies. Wow. This is what they're telling us now. So this is page 46 to 47 in Leonard's publication. Now, you can see the webbing between the fingers. Let's go and pull this into an AI program, and we're going to end up with something that looks like this. I mean, you wouldn't want to meet him on a Saturday night, but this is what the pathologists are telling us.
He might be a nice guy, Michael.
He might be a nice guy. You never know. You never know. Yeah. I'm just going by what the medical doctors and pathologists have talked to Leonard Stringfield about what these bodies look like. This is what we're going to get. So we need to pull these things out for congressional hearings. Okay, next one. Yeah. Walker Air Force Base, 1954. This is April 12th, 1954. Now, this photographer was only 18 years old. He served between 1954 to 1955. This is page 82 in the book. Walker Air Force Base was renamed. It used to be called Roswell Army Airfield, home of the 509th Bomb Group. So we're talking about the same place here from the 47 incident. It was just renamed Walker Air Force Base. Now, this young photographer was so good and so experienced in camera settings, exposure. He knew about lighting, and he thought, you know what? I'm an expert at this. Maybe my skills could be valuable to the Air Force. Who knows? Let's just see if we can be of some assistance to the Air Force. So there was one day where he got a call to board an H-19 helicopter, which you see on this slide, virtually the identical model. He was with a couple of his teammates. They pile into this H-19 helicopter, and then there was an address that came over the PA system, and it said, quote, and this is a direct quote, "Men, this is not a drill. This is a red alert scramble." So they take off from Walker Air Force Base. They fly northbound. The highway 258, I think, is off to the right. They make a left-hand turn. Now they're flying near Corona, New Mexico. And the sun is just coming down over the horizon. They go over this low-rise hill. And when they go over the hill, what do they see? They see a 50-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that augured in at a 45-degree angle. It has a low-rise dome on top. There was a series of lights that were going around the outer circumference, which were still rotating when they got there. Now, he was told to open up the cargo bay door. There was a shining spotlight illuminating the scene below, and he was told to take photographs of this entire scene. And he's looking at this, snapping shots away here. What he said, that he could see 4 deceased ET bodies laying on the ground.
Wow.
Now let's go to the next slide here. This is a full color illustration, kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. Now, when he landed, he got out of the helicopter. He was within 40 feet of the dish-shaped craft, and something bizarre happened. As soon as he landed, he said that 2 things were readily apparent. The entire localized area permeated with the smell of automobile battery acid. That's what he said. The whole place smelled like automobile battery acid.
Yeah.
It had this pungent odor. The next thing he noticed is that there were vehicles approaching and rushing to his location. He was at the very beginning of this retrieval operation. There were 6x6 covered troop transport. There were multiple Jeeps getting there. So he got a real good look at this retrieval operation. Now, here is what I did, another illustration that gives you an idea of what this looks like. Let me go to daytime scene. Something like this was retrieved according to this military witness here. Now,
okay, a lot of similarities with the crafts for sure.
Yep. Similar craft. Now we want to take it back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base again. This is 1955. Our witness is Mrs. G. She worked in the Foreign Materials Division at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The source for this is page 17, abstract 12, within UFO crash retrievals by Leonard Stringfield. So again, if anyone wants to follow along, that's the reference. Now, according to Charles Wellham, who is a friend of Mrs. G, she worked in this warehouse building that looked all the world like the closing scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones. This is where this woman worked. I'm going to go to the next slide here. So this is warehouse building 258. Now, what Mrs. G said is absolutely incredible. She said that she cataloged 1,000 components that came from a UFO crash retrieval, which is just unbelievable. So I just want to repeat that really quickly. She stated that she cataloged 1,000 components that came from the interior of a UFO crash retrieval operation. So they can't claim that they don't have the information, or they can't make the statement as we don't have any debris. This woman cataloged 1,000 components. So I thought, you know what, Rudy, you got to give me a drawing of Mrs. G, and then I want shelving on either side. And I want you to populate these shelves with all this ET debris. Now, I don't know what it looks like because I wasn't there. So we had to come up with something, right? Now, what they had set up is they set this thing up as an assembly line. I'm going to go to the next slide here. And this gives you an illustration. This is by Joel Christopher Payne. When they got to the first station, there was a gentleman who took photographs of it. Then it moved over to the next station and they bagged it and tagged it. And then they moved it over to Mrs. G and she cataloged it. So they had this thing running like a well-oiled machine. Now, while all this is going on, Mrs. G said that there was a dolly that went right by her desk. And on the top of this dolly, there were 2 deceased ET corpses that were being preserved in this formaldehyde preservation fluid. So not only did she see the debris, she saw the bodies as well.
Wow.
Why would this woman lie to us? Why would she lie to us?
It's so interesting because, all of these crash retrievals obviously would have so many people working on them.
Of course.
But like this particular story gives you the insight into just how many people are having to come in contact with these artifacts, these items, these bodies. And wow, the fact that there aren't more people that haven't come forward to let it go. Like on that last slide, you had the quote from her that said, "Uncle Sam can't do anything to me once I'm in the grave."
Yeah, that's right. So when she told this to Charles Wilhelm, she told him this quote. She said, "Uncle Sam can't do anything to me once I'm in my grave." 6 months later, she died. We got to her just in time.
Wow.
There is absolutely no reason for this patriot, for this pioneer, for this fearless woman coming forward. There's absolutely no reason for her to lie to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely no reason.
And she pretty much did what Uncle Sam asked, right? She waited all the way until she was getting ready to pass on before she decided to share her story.
And now the great thing is we don't have to rely on Mrs. G alone. We have another very good patriot that has also told us some things too. So what is the actionable item on this last case here? Since over 1,000 components of physical ET hardware exists, this evidence should be tracked down by senators and congressmen with the appropriate security clearances and should be presented in open public congressional hearings. Like tomorrow morning, they need to go to the Pentagon. They need to go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and they need to take it all the way to the top and tell us where this information is. Get it out into open congressional hearings. Okay, so let's go back to the next woman, and we need more women in this field.
Evidently.
I don't know why we don't have more women in this field.
Evidently we do.
Women whistleblowers coming forward. It's always been men, right? Well, here's another one. She's no longer with us, but this is June Crane. I want to introduce everyone to June Crane.
She's adorable.
She grew up in Dayton, Ohio. She worked for the United States government between 1942 to 1952. She worked in classified laboratories. She had a Q clearance. She held ET debris at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. She stated that by 1952, the U.S. government had been involved in 3 UFO crash retrieval operations. She spoke to a pilot that stated that he had flown in ET bodies and wreckage. So this is another credible witness. She's a reference librarian. Why would this lady lie to us? Okay. She wrote James Clarkson interviewed this witness in person, and he wrote an entire book about what this woman told James Clarkson. Very good book, highly recommended. So now we've got 2 witnesses coming forward, specific details about Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. 2 primary witnesses. Okay, next one. Same location, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This is April 1962. And we have this from page 88, case A6. This is a fighter pilot who's the squadron leader. He's part of the 354th Tactical Air Command Fighter Wing. Again, April 1962, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now, this gentleman was in charge of the physical well-being of the Tactical Air Command Fighter Wing. So they're all on their morning jog, not thinking anything of it. They were trying to find a 4th wall to complete their handball court. So they're kind of jogging down the row of hangars. One of these hangar doors was opened up, and they kind of go inside, not thinking anything of it. And what they saw was a 15-foot diameter dish-shaped craft. It was propped up on 2 engine test stands. There was this rope around the outer circumference, and at least 5 military police with rifles guarding this thing. They got a real good look at this by accident. I'm going to go to the next slide here. This gives you an idea of what this may have looked like. Now, the statement that was made by the Air Command leader, which I think is very important because he talked to one of these guards, and I'm going to go to the next slide, give you an idea of what was talked about here. The guard challenged by saying, quote, "I don't think you're supposed to be here, sir." Quote, "I replied to the affirmative, and we had turned about face and departed, mumbling to ourselves that the good old U.S. had developed or had all along flying saucers in service." So now we've got 5 fighter pilots that saw this.
Wow.
Nowhere these guys lying. Not a chance.
Yeah. They're just looking for a handball court.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have to interrupt you for a second, Michael, because I don't know, I know you're into ETs and stuff and UFOs, but I don't know how you feel about mediums and spirits. But if I don't tell you this, I'm just going to keep getting bombarded.
Okay.
Mrs. June Crane would like for me to tell you that she is very happy that you are sharing her story.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. Wonderful.
As soon as her picture came up, she's like, right here. And she's like, "You have to tell Michael, tell him. I'm like, hold on, I got to let him finish.
It's our job to preserve this history. We've got to preserve this history. I am willing to put my life on the line that both June Crane and Mrs. G, they're absolutely not lying to us. There is no way they're lying. Why would she? Why would she?
Yeah.
We can rest assured that these witnesses. Now, okay, truth be told, if you have 600 witnesses, are 1 or 2? Yeah, 1 or 2 might be, but not these highly
not in these numbers.
No, these credible people. Yeah.
Yep.
Not in these numbers. And well, real quick, I'm being reminded by our wonderful team Weird here that it is the top of the hour. So this is just a quick reset for people who have joined us. If you've wandered into the show since we started, welcome in. Well, this is the Witching Hours, and we are joined tonight by Michael Schratt, and we are talking about UFOs. So we're talking about UFOs and crash retrievals and research that has been done, and we're kind of going through here and going through a record of evidence of UFO crash retrievals by the U.S. military, and so that's where we're at. If you have any questions as we get along in these last 30 minutes of the show, feel free to put them in chat, and we will pass those questions along and see if we can get those answered for you. If you are watching the show or hanging out with us now, then you already know Medium Jenny Lee. But did you know you can book a private session, explore her spiritual services, or check out her latest content all in one place? Head over to mediumjennylee.com. Whether you're seeking guidance, answers from beyond, or just curious about what the spirit world has to say, Jenny offers personal readings, mentorship, and more. Don't miss your chance to connect directly. Visit mediumjennylee.com and take the next step on your spiritual journey. Your journey to the weird is just a click away. We did have one question earlier that I did want to bring up that CMC Air Boss had asked, and this was going back to the ET where we looked at the AI, the one that had the web fingers.
Yes.
He was noticing that the muscle structure on it, because we had talked about how they didn't seem to have knees, but in the AI recreation it did. Was that different, or was that just because
we did the
AI?
best we could with what we had,
Gotcha. So that's what we figured. That's what Jenny had said. I just wanted to double check to make sure I asked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Correct.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, we can continue on here. Now, Braniff International Airways. What does this have to do with our conversation and discussion about UFO crash retrievals? What does this have to do with anything? Well, we have another reference from a pilot. So we've got the Tactical Air Command pilots that we talked about. This is reference 53, date 1963. Source PJ, we have his name. He's a captain in the Navy and a pilot for Braniff International Airways. He encountered 2 flying saucers in a hangar at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. One was 30 feet in diameter. It could hold 12. There was a smaller one that could hold 2 people. And it's just this firsthand witness testimony of craft at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, bodies packed in crates at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, When you have one or three, four, five, maybe that's not. But when you have dozens and dozens of these witnesses coming forward as a united coalition, it's just no longer in question anymore. It's true. It's been going on. They've been keeping this under wraps for decades. If we take it back to 1941, Cape Girardeau crash retrieval as our first American crash retrieval, this has been going on for 75, 80 years. And it's about time for this information to come forward here. Okay, now, everything we've talked about here up to this point has come from Leonard's book, UFO Crash Retrievals. This comes from Magic Eyes Only by Ryan Wood. So if we factor in the 119 crash retrieval cases from Leonard Stringfield, and then we switch it over to Ryan Wood's book, Magic Eyes Only, that was published 20 years ago, and recently last year, he did an updated version of this. He has an additional 104 crash retrieval cases.
Wow.
Now
so
we've got
many.
some serious firepower. We've got the odds are in our favor. We can't lose. All we need is one of these to be correct.
So that's like over 300, right?
I mean,
my crappy math is correct.
We can't lose. We can't
all
lose.
you need is one, and then all the rest don't matter anymore. The cat's out of the bag at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is page 217, Santa Rosa, New Mexico, spring 1963, in Ryan Wood's book, Magic Eyes Only. And we have an X-ray technician. She was 24 years old. She is our primary source for this case. Now, there seemed to be some type of an accident on the other side of town. So she goes along with the doctor, and they pile into one of these 1963 Ford Galaxy ambulance cars.
It's like Ghostbusters.
Yes, Ghostbusters. So they drive across town. And when they get there, the X-ray technician and the doctor, they come out of this ambulance car, and what do they see? They see at least two deceased ET bodies that were about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. And her very first reaction, we've got her quote. She said, quote, "Where are their parents?" This is what she said. She thought she was looking at children, but they were these mangled, deceased ET bodies that she thought originally were children.
Good Lord.
So they pick up the bodies, they put them on stretchers, they load them into the back of the ambulance car, and they drive them back with the doctor back to the hospital. Here's our full color rendering. This gives you an idea of what this looks like. And when they got there, this is where the story gets interesting, okay? And I'm just going to read this really quickly here. Within an hour of arriving at the hospital, the United States Air Force arrived and ordered all 3 bodies to be removed. They also confiscated all paperwork, notes, graphs, charts, and even undeveloped X-rays. The X-ray technician said that she saw a flatbed truck outside with an object that was covered by a tarp. And then this Air Force colonel made a very cryptic remark. He told this X-ray technician, quote, "This did not happen. You are never to speak about this. And remember this, the government has a long arm." So you can see that the
rude,
the threat process, the intimidation process, starting from Roswell, has continued all the way to this case. So they're strong arming the witnesses. They're pulling up floorboards in Roswell. They're picking up debris. If it's just a weather balloon, why even bother threatening the witnesses?
It's
right?
like they just give themselves away by doing all this awful stuff to people.
That's a great way to put it. They do give themselves away.
Jeez.
The Air Force told us point blank back in 1969 when Project Blue Book closed. They said there's no threat to national security. We're not hiding anything. All of these cases are misidentifications of the planet Venus. They're weather balloons. They're flocks of bird. We're not hiding anything. If they're not hiding, why did this colonel tell this woman, you are never to speak about this?
Swamp gas.
You know?
Another thing that always struck me about this is the idea that, so at this point, like, we know, without naming names, there have been intelligence officials that have come forward who have said that they were on a disinformation campaign by the U.S. government, correct?
Right.
So if that is true, if we know that there's intentionally been a disinformation campaign by the U.S. government, at least at some points in time through history, then what other purpose would there be to have a disinformation campaign than to
Correct.
spread false information?
Correct.
Unless they were protecting some kind of secret that had to deal with that topic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
To me, that's always been the key point of like, is this, is this believable? Is this something that, can keep were we going to get disclosure? And that is one of the facts that always keeps me going, is the idea of, we know they have admitted that they're covering things up. And so if they're willing to admit that, then what else are we supposed to do with that information other than realize that there's something going on that they're covering up?
I'm like, who do they think they're fooling, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they are, but...
A couple other quick points. The mainstream media has been bought and paid for by the intelligence communities to hold on to this secret. We've got Murder Incorporated. James Forstall was the first casualty of the cover-up. So that's going on. You talked about the disinformation. We talked about the muddying of the waters. We've got the black budget. We're spending billions of dollars on the UFO crash retrieval program to exploit the weapons advancements that we can gain from these crash retrievals. You can see what they have really pinned themselves into a corner. And this is way beyond the heads of senators and congressmen to unravel. We're talking about dark and dirty secrets that have been going on for 80 years. And billions of dollars have been poured into these programs. Lives have been ruined over this. This is going to be difficult to pull out.
Well,
that's just like, and then all that bad stuff that they did just makes it so they have to cover it up even more, and that they're never going to want to come out and say what really happened, because then they have to admit that they did all this terrible stuff.
That's right. Yep.
Which brings us right back around to what we were talking about towards the beginning of the show, which was, do we think we'll see disclosure, and can people handle disclosure? And I think maybe the one group that can handle disclosure is the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Because how do they, even if they wanted to, even like whoever that is, or whoever gets to make that decision, how would you create disclosure now without everyone losing complete faith in their government?
Correct.
So it's almost like a lie that has to persist, because there's kind of no way out of it at this point. Like that the boat's kind of sailed for them. Yeah, I don't know.
You can't just unravel a little bit of the truth for disclosure. It's just going to lead to so many other things. All the NDAs that were signed, all the non-disclosure agreements, and these are extra constitutional because they bypass the Congress. And what that means is, by point of fact, that they're null and void, because they circumvent the checks and balances of this government and this
Which
republic.
Should never have been able to be done in the first place.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we have a fantastic comment that we need to share from One Step at a Time 01 said, "Wow, I can't believe Michael Schratt is on Twitch on this stream. This is what I'm talking about. Disclosure is here." So apparently you are the disclosure, Michael.
Well, we do what we can here, We do what we can here. So.
Yeah.
All right. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, just piggybacking off what you're saying, and imagine the lawsuits that would be open about that. People who were strong armed, people who were, bullied into keeping quiet, families of people, all that's going to open up a can of worms for sure.
Oh, yeah. You can see the amount of lawsuits that will be filed for this. Even things where EPA rights were violated. You've got toxic chemicals. That's a whole different subject. Let's continue on here. Okay, now this one, December 1963. This is probably my favorite case of all the Stringfield cases. I put so much effort into this one, but
that's where my mom was born.
Well, there you go. Cherry Point, North Carolina. This is page 152, case 2, and we have a Marine. This is December 1963. This is literally weeks after Kennedy was assassinated at Daley Plaza on November 22nd, 1963. Couple of weeks later, we've got this Marine who is at Cherry Point, North Carolina. I'm going to go to the next slide. This gives you an idea of where this is, just north of Havelock. Now, He is told to board a plane with blacked out windows, and they fly 3 hours from Cherry Point, North Carolina, to an undisclosed location that he wasn't told about. When he gets off the plane, blindfold is removed, and because he had a blacked out windows, and what he sees, hangar doors open up. He sees a 40-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that's about 15 feet tall. It looks like a fat hamburger, and there is essentially no visible means of propulsion. It's a highly polished mirror reflective device. There were 9 opaque elliptical-shaped windows wrapped around the outer circumference of the craft itself. Now, if you look at the bottom view, you'll see these red dots. These are the attempted point of entry with a diamond tip drill bit. They were desperately trying to get into this thing. Now I'm going to go to the next slide here. This is Joseph Race full color rendering. You can kind of get a look at this thing. This thing was virtually seamless.
Wow.
And he said that there was a very faint outline of a hatchway entry on the bottom lower section of the craft. And he said that you could not put a razor blade into this scene. It was so fully integrated as to be non-existent. This is kind of the terminology that he mentioned, just so perfectly integrated. Now, these are the 3 ways that they try to get into this craft. Number 1, diamond tip drill bits, failed. Number 2, they brought out acetylene torches. That failed as well. Number 3, they brought out a laser, and that failed as well. We'll talk about that later. Let's go on.
Wow.
What you're looking at here is the original, not a duplication. This is the original sketch by the U.S. Marine. This was drawn back in 1986 with an interview with a gentleman that I knew called Michael Johnstone. He interviewed this Marine back in 1986. And I'm going to break this down. If you look on the upper left and right-hand corners, there's these lighting fixtures. The whole place was excruciatingly well lit up. No shadows on the ground. You see the scaffolding here, and then you see the opaque windows. And then if you look on the bottom section of these dark sections, those are the pads that are supporting the craft on the scaffolding. Now, if you look at the window left of center, you'll see kind of a filled in dot. That's the attempted point of entry that they were taking these diamond tip drill bits trying to drill into this thing, but it didn't work. Let me go to the next slide here. So here is Michael Johnstone's drawing, basically done at the time of the interview. So the whole thing was propped up on scaffolding 5 feet off the hangar floor. So you had these lab coat technicians that could walk below this craft. Once you climb up on the scaffolding, they had a catwalk where you could walk completely around the craft 360 degrees. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this Marine said that directly below this craft on the scaffolding, there was a white circle painted on the hangar floor. His job was to guard that craft for a period of 2 weeks and shoot to kill anyone, repeat, anyone who would go over that white painted circle. That was his job. Now, he also mentioned that there was a 1-inch lip between the outer skin of the craft itself and the outer opaque windows, something that you could feel with your thumb. He did mention that. So if you look at my detailed drawing here, where I've blown this up, you can see this 1-inch lip. That's something that he absolutely mentioned. So here's Joseph Race full color rendering. Want to give him credit. So you can see the white lab coat technicians. I'm going to go to the illustration done by John McNeil. This was the very first pass full color illustration. There were other guards there as well. He wasn't the only one. There were other guards there as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to take your audience into this facility, and we are going to penetrate this chain link fence, and we're going to pretend that we're a fly on the wall, and we're going to fly right through the holes of this chain link fence. And we're going to get a little bit closer here. It's coming into view now. We're going to go a little bit closer into this hangar facility. Now you can see the guards here. You can see the lights shining down. We've got the circle painted on the floor. He also said, and I'm going to move to the next slide, that not only were there white lab coat technicians and other guards there were suitors there, like blue suitors, intelligence people. They were involved in this as well. Let's go to the next slide. Here you can see the 1-inch lip on the outer portion of the opaque windows. This is a 45-degree look-down angle. This shows you the entire scene. So this is December 1963, literally a couple of weeks after Kennedy was assassinated. I'm going to go to the next slide here. Now, he said that on the last day that he went into this facility to guard this craft, he saw them removing the craft off of the scaffolding, putting it onto a cradle device that was connected to an 18-wheeler tractor trailer lowboy truck. And so they were getting ready to put a tarp around this thing. They built this cradle, and you can see we're beginning the tarp process right now. I'll move to the next slide here. We're about 50% tarp now. We'll move on to the next one. We're 100% tarp now, and they were moving this craft to another location. So bottom line is the two ways that they keep this from the American public and the world, this biggest secret of all kind, this whole concept of UFO crash retrievals was classified higher than the atomic bomb during World War II. Mm. It was classified above top secret. And so that's where Timothy Good got the name of his book, Above Top Secret. That's where that comes from. So the two ways that they keep this secret from the American public and the world is, number one, they compartmentalize this information. That's number one. Number two is they keep moving these assets from one facility to the next so that you don't have like a large group of people getting the full story. You compartmentalize it and you move it to the next location. So what they've done is they've moved things to MacDill Air Force Base, Edwards North Base Complex, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Eglin Air Force Base, Homestead Air Force Base, and they've got multiple assets at underground facilities all around the country. They're good. These guys are geniuses. They've done a very good job. They've done a very good job. So we'll continue. Here's Rudy's drawing.
Let me get one question in for you. Well, I'm curious. We have a question in chat from Cole Drake, and he said, they said, I wonder if anyone did any testing for gravitational anomalies or magnetic fluctuations. So I just want to add on to that. Out of any of these records that you have, we have like clerical people and photographers. Has there been anyone who did any of the scientific testing on these that ever came forward to release any of that info?
I'm sure that was done at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, but I don't have any specific details. Okay. But we can bet that they tried everything. They probably examined for years and even decades. They probably examined this. So here's Rudy's drawing. This just gives you an idea of a tarping process and moving to another location. Now let's get back to this laser incident that took place. So once the diamond tip drill bits failed, and once the acetylene torches failed, he said they brought in a large truck that had a generating device on it. And then they kind of like brought these heavy gauge cables, brought it all the way from the trailer into the hangar. They connected those hangars to a laser device. Now, they did have lasers back in 1963. They weren't the most powerful things in the world. They turned on the laser. It hit the skin of the craft itself, bounced, reflected, and damaged the ceiling tile. So let's go to the next slide here, and you can see the ceiling tile was damaged up on the top of the hangar facility. Now, when they moved the laser away, it was warm to the touch, but made no effect whatsoever. Wow. So that
and then there's a maintenance guy who's got to climb up there and replace the ceiling tile. Right. I mean, that's another witness.
That's another witness.
What in the heck are you doing in here? Yeah.
So if you think about the metallurgical advancements that might have been made via a multi-billion-dollar reverse engineering program, figuring out the form, fit, and function, the atomic structure of the skin of the craft, and how that might be integrated into our 5th and 6th generation stealth fighter aircraft, you can see that's what's been going on here. All right, so here's the drawing of the laser incident. This is from the witness. I'm going to go to the next one here. The witness also described color-coded badges that these white lab coat technicians were wearing. So if you had a green badge, you could go this place in the facility. If you had a yellow badge, you could go over here in the facility. If you had a red badge, you had access to the entire facility. So we've heard about this color-coded badges. This pops up multiple times as well. Now, before he was done guarding the craft for a period of 2 weeks, he said that his job was to frisk people that came into the hangar. One day, he was in the hangar alone with the craft and nobody frisked him. So he took out a small German Minox camera and he snapped a shot of this thing. And he said, quote, "Someday I will tell this story and by God, people are going to believe me." However, unfortunately, that photograph was lost in a flood back in 1983. So we were this close of getting this evidence, but it was lost in 1983. So I told Joseph Wraith, I said, "Joseph, you've got to give me a replica. Please do a replica of what this Minox camera photograph may have looked like." And so this is what we came up with. So it would be kind of distorted, a little bit out of focus. It would be gray tones, maybe some water stains, but something like this was taken by this U.S. Marine back in December 1963. Now, another thing he said that while I was guarding this craft for 2 weeks at this facility, there was a United States Secretary of the Navy that just about walked over that perimeter circle on the floor, and I almost had to shoot this guy. It would have been this guy right here, Paul Nitz.
Didn't he get the rules before he went into the hangar?
Apparently not. So November 29th, 1963 to June 30th, 1967, it would have been this gentleman that walked over that line. Almost did. He almost got shot.
Goodness.
That brings us to 4-star Major General Melvin F. McNichol. He was Base Commander, Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. Now, why does this gentleman play a role in our story here? Well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, here is his obituary. The Daily Oklahoman, July 11th, 1986. Ex-Tinker Commander Melvin McNichol dies. Okay, so why is he important with our story? Well, turns out he was good friends with Charlotte Mann, pictured on the left. And she was intimately involved in the 1941 Cape Girardeau crash retrieval because she held the photograph of the body that was seen at the site. She actually held that photograph. Now, these two were friends. They had a mutual interest in UFOs. So Charlotte turns to General McNichol and says, "General, you know, we've been friends for many years. We have this mutual interest in UFOs, and you've never told me anything. Are we still friends? I don't know anymore. You know, are we still friends?" So Melvin McNichol turns to Charlotte Mann and says, "Charlotte, if you ever repeat what I'm about to tell you, it could end my career and I'll deny it." So he proceeds to tell Charlotte the following 3 things. Number 1, he saw a UFO which was located in the west. Number 2, he walked around a UFO on a catwalk which is propped up by scaffolding. And number 3, bodies were recovered and one was still alive. When I heard this from Charlotte Mann, I said, I got it now, because this is tracking exactly what the Marine was stating about what he saw, because he said that he saw a UFO which was 3 hours by plane from Cherry Point, North Carolina. If you do the math, Cherry Point, North Carolina, 3 hours by plane, that puts you within the west, so that checks out. The general told Charlotte that he walked around a UFO on a catwalk which was propped up by scaffolding. This is exactly what the Marine said.
Yeah.
He said that there was a catwalk, it was propped up on scaffolding. This is exactly what the Marine said. And then the general said that bodies were recovered and one was still alive. Through the overhearing of water cooler talk by the lab coat technicians within this facility, the Marine overheard them talking about bodies being recovered and one was still alive. So this is tracking exactly with what the Marine said. So when I heard Charlotte Mann talking about what Melvin McNichol told her, now I said, now I got it. We've got independent secondary confirmation from 2 sources on this case, and I know they didn't know each other. So that was the clincher for me that we had a real crash retrieval case.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. What kind of plane? Do we know what kind of plane that was being flown in on by any chance? And
I don't know what kind of plane it was. Probably a prop job, 1963. It probably would have been a 4-engine, could have been a DC-7.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
CMC, who's our other, he's our Team Weird pilot. said I did a calculation from MCAS Cherry Point to Dayton, Ohio, and it is 522 miles distance, which is a 3-hour flight at 180 knots, typical for prop transports of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, technically, that wouldn't be in the West, but if they were flying a jet, which they had jets in 63, that would have put us within range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's still conceivable that they could have been talking about one and the same craft. It's very possible.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's very possible. Not sure how much time we have left here.
We're at the last
Yeah.
minute, unfortunately.
Believe it or not.
Did we get all the way through the Cherry Point
We got through the
information?
Cherry Point. Yes, we
Okay,
did.
so
Okay.
that will be where we have to stop this time. Well, we made it to 1963 this time.
We made it to 1963.
We
Yes,
made it.
did.
We made it 10 more years,
Good.
which just means we'll have to have you back on again
Sure.
to keep
Love to do
going.
No problem.
Yeah, absolutely love the conversation. I thank you so much for joining us, Michael. It was really great to talk.
Great to be here. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It this is important topic, and I think there's a lot of for me a lot of education that goes on with the talks you give here, because even someone like me who's kind of interested in the UFO phenomenon, it's something to keep up with. There's all kinds of information that I've been able to take out of our talks, and I'm sure that's true for. Well, I can tell through chat tonight that a lot of people are like, "Wow, I didn't know that." Oh, this is So there's a lot of learning going on, which is wonderful.
And I just wanted to make one quick joke before we run out of time.
Okay.
You're talking about how weird, and there was a lot of weird stuff happened in 1953. That was the year my dad was born, so I'm just going to blame it on him.
Okay.
That all makes sense.
He brought it all in. That's what happened.
All right. Well, let's do this. We'll bring everything back up here. For all of you who are listening at another time and another place, we will see you all next time.